What's up everybody, it's Patrick from wpbuilderhelper, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Divi and Brizy and basically all the page builders together. And I'm going to go over some details and we're going to work through it. And one thing that I keep noticing on forums and things like that is that people like to get into arguments of which page builder is the fastest. That was originally kind of started by, I think, Oxygen, who kind of pointed out that they had a bunch of divs in a lot of different places all over these page builders. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to pop open each of these page builders. And out of the box, we're going to install a page from their library onto one of my local hosts. And then we're going to test them. We're going to test them for speed, and we're going to find out which one's the fastest out of the box without any additional speed add-ons, without anything else attached to it. So let's get started. What's up guys? So here we are again. We're in my local live site, and I'm hoping that we're going to try and make this as simple as possible. But it's the whole reason I bring this up is because I always get in arguments with people over, they'll ask, oh, which page builder should I pick? Should I pick Brizy? Should I pick Divi? Should I pick Elementor? Should I pick this? And then inevitably somebody always says, well, this one's faster than this one, which is faster than this one. And to some respects, those statements are usually true. And to some respects, they're just blown out of proportion. Somebody had mentioned on the forums, actually on one of my videos the last time, and he brought up a very good point, and it's something that, I talked about when I was talking about Divi beforehand. But, when you start working with one of these page builders, the whole thing is that they bring a level of ease into your life. And so you trade off certain speed advantages that you would get with a basic HTML and CSS website for more speed in, JavaScript and animations and, those type of things that you kind of get with these pages. As a matter of fact, just looking at this page, like you don't see anything, but that's probably because it hasn't loaded. Like let's reload it, and you'll see with Divi as you kind of scroll down, you get these kind of fade in effects and stuff like that. And you've got some parallax here. You've just got some things that just make the page look really nice, and the average person just wouldn't know how to do. I've got a page for Divi. I've got a page for Oxygen. Here that shows you what Oxygen looks like. It's Meet the People. It's got some rollover effects. It's got all of that. So one thing that you're going to notice in this test is this really isn't a test to go over the speed because it's a local server. So that's not a good indication of anything. So you should never look at the speed when you're testing on local, because it's just not something that's going to really draw you in, because the speed, it really needs to be tested on a server. But we can kind of look at what's running in the background, kind of see what's going on. As you can see, I've got Pingdom up here, I've got GT metrics, and I've even got page speed insights. Page speed is going to be like the less important one, but I still want to see what they say about each of these. So what I'm going to do is I am going to bust open local, and I'm going to copy. I have some live links for each of these, and these are just very simple websites. I know they're all different, so once again, we're not looking at the speed of them. We're not comparing that. We just want to see how they rank out of the box using one of their templates. And I know all these templates are not the same. I know that. I get it. You can't even go and actually, say, oh, well, this is a valid test. It's not really a valid test, but it's more or less just to show you the differences between them. How they react and what's going on in the background and what you have here and, what's loading, that type of thing. And so sometimes just looking at that and seeing that can make the difference between, picking one over the other. And some of these, as you can see, have animations, some of them have videos, so they're not all equal in what they do. As a matter of fact, Brizy's probably the one that has the least amount of stuff that's on it. I don't think any of this has any animation on it. Oh yeah, it does. It has some basic animation that's kind of loaded up as you play, but there's not too much. It's relatively easy on the Brizy page. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take and we're going to go in and we're going to test each of these, and we're going to look at them and we're going to figure out, Which, what are they loading? What's going on in the background? What do we think about that? And that's what we want to look at. So I'm going to bust open my local, and the first one I'm going to copy is this Divi theme. And I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to run it for all of these. As you can see, I've already kind of played with it. I wanted to make sure it was going to actually be able to give me some kind of data. I thought that was important. And as we do this, I'm going to be writing all this down also. So I'm curious too, just out of the box, which one of these is going to surpass all the other ones. Even on a local server, I don't actually know the answer to it. I know on shared servers which one's a little bit slower than other ones, but I don't know on a local. So page speed insight, probably the most useless test that you could do, but we'll still write it down anyway, just for, grins and giggles. So Divi actually, surprising enough, Divi actually ranks really, really well. Of course, it looks like it didn't load anything from the preview, but that's not often that's not really that surprising. So we wanted to take a look at what's loading. There's some jQuery loading. There's some emojis that are loading. All of this can be optimized. There's some render blocking resources. It looks like some styles, some families, dash icons, jQuery, reCAPTCHA. There's a library block that's loading. So there's different things loading in the background. And this is what I'm talking about with the whole loading thing. You can kind of look at this and go through it and get an idea of, where your page ranks with certain things. So strangely enough, once again, I'm shocked by this. I don't know if it's just because of the actual site itself. It should be loading up everything correctly. Let me make sure. Let me view the site and make sure it's not loaded. Yeah, this is what it's loading. It just looks funny in the preview, which isn't uncommon with some of these things. But if we look at the enable compression, so there's some compression that needs to go on, and most of this is Divi core stuff. This is what people are talking about when they're talking about the extra stuff that things load, like reCAPTCHA, for instance. If we go on this page, you'll notice that there's not even an area to enter in any CAPTCHA information, but yet it loads because Divi has a form option that allows it to have reCAPTCHA, and so because of that, it'll load that. There's also some other JavaScript elements that are loading. There's a couple different things that are loading. There's some emojis that are loading, but once again, we don't have any emojis on this page. We have some icons and stuff like that, but those are the things that are loading. So when people start talking about this is one of the things that often people start talking about. I'll write down the fully load time just for giggles, just to see, and I'll write down the request. Because right now, if we're really being honest, your load time doesn't matter on a local server, but your page size and your requests kind of do. Those are something that should be fairly low. So we're going to take and we're going to write those down just to see. This doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, but I'm actually quite surprised at the number of things that it does well. So, whenever somebody says the Divi's not optimizing their code, they're optimizing their code. And so we get almost the same page size here. It's a little bit bigger on Pingdom. And it's showing 19 requests. I have no idea. If anyone knows in the comments why the request, it really does look like it just breaks the website though. If anyone knows why the requests are so low on one but not low on another, anybody know why? Maybe because it's on a local server. This test may be completely garbage, but I'm still going to try. So that was Divi. So let's move on to the next one. We're going to move on to Oxygen, and let's go in and we'll copy the Oxygen link. Let's click it. Let's copy it. And then we'll go in and we'll retest these. And not scientific, Like I've said before, none of these tests are scientific. It's just a matter of doing them and seeing where these page builders rank, because I'm honestly curious. So Oxygen, out of the box, has a decent mobile score. It's got a mobile score of 82, which is really, really high. It's definitely not breaking on the Oxygen point. I wonder if Divi broke and maybe that's why it's getting some issues. some images. Obviously, these images are not supposed to be coming from Oxygen host. They should be hosted on your local site. That's one of the drawbacks of doing this. I think Brizzy actually loads them onto your site, but Oxygen has these like almost hyperlinked, and it's something you're supposed to go in and change. So you're not supposed to keep those. So technically, this really doesn't count for anything because you're supposed to change the images. But you can see there's some jQuery that's loading. There's an unslider because there's a sliding element somewhere in here, I believe. Maybe it's not a sliding element. I don't see. Oh, is it? No, that doesn't slide. Oh, it's this. That's the sliding element. So that's loading. What else do we have loading? We've got some frameworks, some jQuery, all this stuff unused. Still fairly good. I mean, fairly good stuff. Not too much. Most of the complaints are about the images. And on desktop, it's got an 89. Let's look at what it's got for GT. So GT, we'll write down the load time. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. It is 4 seconds, which Divi was a bit higher. The page size is 2.12 megabytes, so that's a pretty big page size, although granted, I'm sure that's from the images, which once again are not optimized, because you can see it's saying optimize images and scaled images and enable compression for these type of things. So we can see there should be some compression built into these, which like I said, if you're a web designer, you should know how to go in and kind of make those changes. So obviously, these pages are quite big. I'm surprised that they're actually this big. I'm not even sure why they're this big. Now, funny thing, the request on this page actually is equal to the request on this page, where in Divi it wasn't. So interesting. It's very, very interesting. Okay, so the next one will be Brizzy. Let's see what Brizzy's got. Let's go in here, click the Brizzy link. Let's go load all of these. But anyway, somebody had mentioned on the thing, we got kind of into an argument. It wasn't really an argument, it's more of a discussion, because I would never call it an argument, because I try and see things the way through other people's eyes rather than just assuming that I'm right on everything, which is never the right way to be. But the basis for the discussion was basically that all of these different frameworks, regardless of how slow they are, offer the customer something fairly well. They offer them a framework that they can kind of use to take and build their websites, and that's pretty important when you're taking and you're considering everything in these websites, because you're speeding up the process essentially. And sometimes people forget about that, and I think that that's an important thing. And I do admit that in one or two of my videos I've kind of not mentioned that, but I know that that's super important. So when you're building a framework, you're adding in functionality that customers need, and that functionality goes a long way into making sure those customers stay happy. So sometimes you will sacrifice speed for a little bit of functionality. It is what it is. Now this one, I'm surprised, loads a lot slower on mobile, at least the mobile test. Let's see, remove JavaScript. So there's some JavaScript going in here. Preview, jQuery, preview, jQuery index. There's those emojis again. Polyfill, render blocking. So there's some style sheet stuff going on here, and then some images which are not being served correctly, which doesn't surprise me. And then it's got some server stuff. So overall, not too bad. And then as you can see, it loads about average. I mean, these have all loaded in the 80s in terms of the desktop, so none of them have done bad with that. Wow. In terms of this performance, even though it doesn't look like it loads correctly here, the load time is fairly good. 2.6 seconds. It's got a great page speed. I guess Brizzy's pages are pretty decent in terms of that. They have very low KB. It's been very well designed. As you were looking at the other ones, you could see that some of the requests, even though I know that they're built off of other pages, this is really good even for a local. If you were to go install this right now and then optimize this even further, this page would rank really, really well. So pingdom, and pingdom's really good too. Once again, the requests are down. I don't know why the requests are down. That's weird. But the page size is roughly about the same. The requests are smaller. Obviously, it has an issue reading local, and the load time is a little bit different. Okay, so now our last page is just Elementor, and let me make sure that this is loaded correctly. This one does have a video, so technically speaking, this may end up hampering this because of this video. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to see what it does. I'm curious. Once again, not scientific at all. None of this technically is going to point out if you should use any of these. This is just more of a discussion, and that's what I'm hoping to kind of get into with more people, is just discussing, what's the difference between all these and which one, ranks better, or whatever the case is, from your eyes, from what do you see that's different? Why do you like them? And some people like things for different reasons. There's no particular reason for why they like it. So here, did not load. Wait, did it not load? It didn't load the correct either. I didn't grab the correct link, because that's the link. That's weird. Let me try that again. Yeah, it loaded the other link. That's strange. Maybe let's disable this link and let's re-enable it. Let's copy. Wonder if I should have done these one by one, and that would have made a difference. Would have made this video much, much longer, but I don't know if that makes a difference either. This might be a garbage video, but I'm going to put it out anyway just so you can see. Because once again, we'll see what comes of it. So the Elementor page is just a standard page. I really don't like the fact that you can't... One of my main complaints about all of these, Brizy, Oxygen, and Divi, they all give you... Well, Divi doesn't, but they give you like... Oxygen and Brizy both give you like headers that you can use. Well, I guess Brizy doesn't either. Only Oxygen does. Oxygen has headers and footers that go with their pages. I think that this is very, very useful, because this one I had to combine headers and footers. I wish that they had some headers and footers that were on these pages that kind of worked with the theme. So Elementor, surprising enough, ranks the lowest out of everybody. Wow, on both of these. So what's going on? What is on this? It's got to be the video. So reduce server, so yeah, that's reduce JavaScript. So swiper, front end, jQuery, embed player. So this embed player is probably the JavaScript for this. That's most likely where that's coming in. Front end modules, render blocking resources. Good Lord, a lot of render blocking resources. Font awesome, fonts. We've got some CSS that's in here. Global CSS, post CSS. See, so it's loading post, but yet there's no post on these pages. There's nowhere that there's a post on this, so why is it loading post CSS? Unless that's specifically for something. I don't know why it's loading that. So much CSS. This would really help with, with a reducer, some kind of reducer, any kind of caching plugin, any kind of speed plugin. They do a good job with kind of offloading that, which I've kind of mentioned before. If you know how to take and go in and take, WP Rocket or Swift or any one of these speed plugins, you can reduce these times dramatically. So it's got another pretty big size, and my guess is that's from the video. It has the most number of requests, though, which is a bit surprising, but I guess it does have a video on it, so I won't get too mad over that, because I know that this is from the video player, this is the video player. So it's like two things that are loading that's on here that are strictly from the video player. So you can't go by this number, technically. I mean, it's a pretty big page, but it's a pretty big page because of the video. But it does have a high number of requests. The number of requests are pretty high. So if we were looking at all of these, and we were to pick one that was faster, I gotta say, I'm surprised. Well, Oxygen is the fastest out of all of them, even with its bigger page size. Elementor ranked way worse than Divi, which is, I mean, that's surprising, but it is what it is. There's just more stuff loading in the background than Divi. So that just goes to show you, Divi really has been doing their due diligence to make sure their stuff like loads fast. Brizzy actually loads pretty good. It had the smallest page size, which if you were to go stick that on a real website right now, Brizzy would load way quicker. Granted, it probably doesn't have some of the the animations and stuff that some of the others do, but it loaded really, really quick. It's got a decent number of requests, and everything else. Actually, it was equal to Oxygen. Divi had the lowest amount of requests out of all of them, and Elementor had the highest amount of requests, which once again, maybe because that's the video that's on here, I don't know. I could take that video out and put an image on here, and maybe that would make a difference too. Maybe I should have done that because that's not very fair. But the whole point was just to look at these and kind of analyze them and come out of which one's on top and which one's on bottom, even though this isn't a contest. Point being, at the end of the day, you can pick any one of these that you want to. And if you have good caching plugins and you have good things behind you that are, good hosting and things like that, the rest of it really doesn't matter. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope it's helped you kind of understand why you picked what you picked. I'm sure you already know why you picked what you picked, but if you were wondering what the difference between some of these are, I hope it's kind of helped you out. All right, and I will see you guys next time.